Philippines analyst Rikard Jalkebro. He joins us from Abu Dhabi. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Firstly, explain to us who are the current front runners in this race. I understand that the son of a former dictator is in the running, as well as the current vice president, who's seen as more of a pro-democracy campaigner.
Yes, thank you for having me. That's exactly correct. The frontrunner, and so far historically it has this largest lead ever this early in the campaign, is the son of the former dictator Ferdinand Marcos. And he has a pretty substantial lead, and he's today also campaigning with the current president's daughter, who will be running for vice president. The other frontrunners would be, as you mentioned, the current vice president, Leni Robredo, who's running together with Kiko Pangilinan. We also have more colorful candidates as well. The former boxer Manny Pacquiao and the current mayor of Manila, Isko Moreno, are running. But so far, the clear favorite to this is Bongbong Marcos, or Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
Interesting. And in terms of the issues that these candidates are campaigning on, what are Philippine voters currently interested in? We know the pandemic has hit the Philippine economy hard, as it has with other economies in the region. What are the main issues at stake here?
Yes, you're spot on there. The current recession after the pandemic has hit the Philippines significantly, from having a very strong growth to being one of the absolute worst countries in Asia at the moment. With politics in the Philippines, these issues are of course important, but when it comes to also choosing and electing a president, they are very interested in personalities and names rather than policies. And as the President Duterte has been a very popular president, at least within the country, outside, particularly in the Western world, he is obviously not seen as popular with our views. But Bongbong Marcos is seen as the natural successor of Duterte. Also the fact that he's running alongside Sara Duterte. Marcos himself is running on a so-called unifying platform because there's been many allegations of corruption in the past with the Marcos family, of course, known for plundering the Philippines, setting them back decades in the economic growth. But these things are still the main issues. The fact that the economy is not doing particularly well after the pandemic. But many positive aspects have been seen, at least among the common people in the Philippines. And therefore, Marcos is seen as a very strong candidate and a successor to Duterte. One of the issues is that obviously those who cannot remember the past are also condemned to repeat it. I suppose because the former president under the dictatorship, we saw very violent and bloody martial law with a lot of extrajudicial killings and a lot of cases of torture, etc. And these things people tend to forget these things, particularly in the Philippines. And people, when I go to the Philippines on the ground, speaking and doing interviews and so on, and the same thing here, as you know, we have a very large expat community here in the UAE with Filipinos, and almost everyone I speak to are determined to vote for Marcos and continue his legacy. Because there's been a very successful whitewashing and PR campaign over the last decade or two in the whole Marcos family and clan to really trying to rectify the reputation that they have of plundering the country and so on. And many of these things have been forgotten. People are having a nostalgic look back onto what the so-called glory days of the Marcos regime were actually about. It's very similar to this kind of Soviet nostalgia that we saw in the fall of the Soviet Union and so on before Putin took power there as well. So the Philippines are again looking for this kind of strong man to take control of the country.
Very interesting. Rikard Jalkebro, thank you so much for bringing us that analysis from Abu Dhabi.
Thank you very much.